There was no room for parking at the dock, so this yacht owner decided to make room. How? Well, he shoved each and every one of those boats out of the way, caused tens of thousands of dollars in damage, but hey, he parked his yacht. Well, the rescue boat would have gotten there on time, it's just that they lost their motor. Jared Miller was fishing at the Jordan Dam in Alabama. However, the water was dropping and the currents caught the boat. When he tried to escape, his boat was pushed to the rocks. When you're really good at lobster fishing, but really bad at operating a boat in choppy waters. At least he cooled off. This is why we don't suggest you go kayaking near whales. It might look cool, but unexpected things like this do happen. The couple was lucky and made it out absolutely unscathed. They were even laughing as they smashed that like button, just like you should do if you haven't done so already. Oh gosh, no, in all seriousness, they were laughing as they were hanging onto the flipped kayak. Now, we're not experts in deploying lifeboats, but we're pretty sure the lifeboat shouldn't jump 30 feet off the surface of the water once launched. If it did, lifeboats would have a warning sign. If you've eaten in the past 3 hours, grab a paper bag. What's the difference between a jet ski and a snowmobile? Look! You're in the middle of a river and your boat engine falls off the boat and into the water. What do you do? Well, if you're like these girls, just stare blankly into the water, hoping it will return. A man who films his boat racing came across a bass boat on the lake. The man driving the bass boat didn't want to lose the race, so he sped up. Clearly, the man with the camera had a faster boat, so he zapped past the bass boat in an instant. However, the waves that his boat generated threw the operator of the bass boat off balance, and he crashed into the woods. He was fine, but we think he learned a valuable lesson. This is a perfect example of how people shouldn't do speed racing. We don't know what this guy was thinking, but he clearly doesn't understand how waves work. Thankfully, he wasn't injured badly. On the southern coast of the island of Tahiti, there's a small village known as Teahupoo. It's famous for its large and dangerous waves. A lot of adventurous tourists go there, rent a boat taxi, and sail to the middle of the ocean to experience the severity of the waves. In 2013, a photographer from Brazil decided to rent a boat and capture the waves up close. Well, we suppose one of those waves snuck up on him, and his boat almost capsized. Thankfully, he made it out alive. Just as this fishing boat was about to dock, a giant wave came from behind and accelerated the boat. Thankfully, the boat stopped in time, and the skillful fishermen on board knew how to control the weight of the ship so it doesn't flip over. In Hillsborough County, Florida, Clyde was watching the game. All of a sudden, he heard a lot of noise coming from the backyard of his house on the water. A group of guys on jet skis were doing stunts and tricks. However, one of the men collided with an incoming boat. The boat operator jumped into the water to save the guy from the jet ski. He didn't look like he would make it, but the doctors at the hospital managed to save his life. Located on Oregon's west coast, this passenger boat called for help during a severe weather storm. The U.S. Coast Guard responded and arrived on site within minutes. Just as one of the Coast Guards was swimming towards the boat trying to save its passengers, a giant wave smashed that subscribe button just like you should do if you haven't already. Oh, but no, seriously now, a giant wave crashed into the boat and flipped it over. Thankfully, they managed to save the people. Sailing across Smith Lake in Tennessee, this sailor was going dangerously fast on the water. Clearly, he couldn't control the ship. So when he had to turn, the man struggled with the controls and crashed into the shore of the lake. Thankfully, the hull of the boat was only partially damaged, and the man walked out of there relatively unscathed. This is the gruesome sight that shook Venetians and tourists alike. The MSC Opera is 9 stories high. It's capable of carrying over 2,000 passengers and weighs over 69,000 tons. The magnitude of the ship nearly destroyed the dock in this popular city. And even though the blaring sirens of the ship could be heard all across Venice, some people weren't running. The tugboats tried to stop the collision, but they were unable to, even though the ship sustained heavy damage on its hull. Thankfully, only 4 people were injured. About an hour later, protesters gathered on the dock to protest the arrival of cruise ships like the MSC Opera, which damage Venice and pollute the air. This is the crucial moment when a giant vessel named MV Arvin broke in half because of the choppy waters. The people above deck managed to film the whole thing, and in the background, you can hear the captain crying out, "Mayday! Mayday!" The Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Main Search and Rescue Coordination Center dispatched a team immediately. They managed to save most of the people on board. However, 7 people who were working below deck didn't make it. After everyone was safely transported on another vessel, the crew filmed the last moments of MV Arvin before it sank. This video was shot in May 2022 in Teahupoo. A group of tourists rented a boat and patiently waited for the waves. Suddenly, a giant wave hit the boat. Luckily, the boat didn't go under and the passengers held on. Soon after, while the boat was still rocking on the water, a second wave came crashing forth. The bow of the boat rose straight up. One of the passengers immediately jumped in the water, and the other held on the way down. But one of them didn't make it to the end. He went overboard, and people with jet skis had to come over and help them. While passengers were busy photographing the ocean on the San Diego beach, they didn't notice the incoming ship that crashed into the dock. Adventure Hornblower experienced a sudden acceleration on the water. In other words, the ship couldn't stop in time, so it crashed into the San Diego dock. The bow of the ship suffered heavy damage, as did the dock. Both needed to be repaired. The crew says that it was the case of a mechanical malfunction. The scariest thing about this incident was that 3 people were injured and rushed to the hospital. The rest of the passengers were trapped on board because the ship's walkway was heavily damaged. This is arguably the most popular speedboat fail on the internet. The video was published around a decade ago, and it's become so popular since then that even Family Guy, the animated series, made a sketch about it. The video is pretty normal in the beginning. 4 guys and 3 girls get on board a speedboat. Around 1 minute into the video, one of the girls chips a nail grabbing something behind one of the seat cushions. While she's too busy looking at her broken nail, all hell breaks loose on the boat. Traveling at around 60 miles per hour, or 100 kilometers per hour, the speedboat crashes into a giant wave. The captain loses control, and everyone falls to the floor. When part of the crew gets up, they panic. The sailor and the girl in the front are laying on the floor. Luckily, no one was badly injured, and they all made it out alive. You'll love these videos next!